G'day everybody. Right, well, like the new look. Just going to see if it helps me actually read this crap out easier for you all to understand. This is an update. Now you may remember prior to New Year's, I wrote a letter for Paula Johnson, or Paula Gray, for her to request under the Official Information Act the reason for her being trespassed from Hawera Court. Now, to the best of our knowledge, she'd committed no offence, done nothing wrong, and unlike private property, when it's a publicly accessible building like a courthouse or Rangatamariki or anywhere else for that matter that's publicly accessible and paid for by the public dime, you should have lawful access to the property. And so we got a response from Mark Popplewell. Well, actually, I tell a lie. It's Bruce Findlay, is the Group Manager of Courts and Tribunals Regional Services Delivery. So he's just the head honcho of actually putting out the letters. But this is what we got back in regards to the questions. It was only 3 simple questions to the Ministry of Justice. Okay, so Tenako, Ms. Johnson, Official Information Act 1982 request. Thank you for your Official Information Act 1982 OIA request of the 30th of November 2020 to Mark Popplewell, Manager of Justice Services Taranaki and Wanganui, or Whanganui. Your request was referred to the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry, for consideration, and I respond as Group Manager, Courts and Tribunal Regional Services Delivery. No shit, that's how you signed it at the end there, Brian. On the 19th of November 2020, you were served with a trespass notice. You have asked for the following information regarding the decision to issue you this trespass notice under Section 23 of the OIA, which I bet they didn't like much. Number 1, the findings on material facts in relation to this trespass notice. 2, any and all references to the information on which the findings were based. 3, the reasons for the decision to trespass myself from Hawera District Court. In response to your request, the way you behaved on 2 recent occasions were the key reasons for the decision to issue you with the trespass notice. Oh really? So there's behaviour police. Ironically, Paula tends to keep her own records of what goes on when she goes to public buildings, and it shows nothing but her behaving perfectly fine and reasonable at all times. So I'm curious as to, that's just the behaviour, it would appear. On both occasions, you were observed behaving in a way which we consider would have given a court security officer reasonable grounds to remove you from the Hawera Court premises under Section 18A of the Court Security Act. I outline these occasions below. On the 15th of October, you were involved in the filming of the ministry staff without their knowledge or consent. I'll stop you right there, Brian. All over the Hawera District Court, it's saying that you are being filmed, and the Ministry of Justice and Hawera District Court certainly do not have any extra rights than we do. You may request under some internal policy for things not to be recorded, and yet at the same time act like complete hypocrites and record everything we're doing. Your staff was fully aware that cameras are operating. There is absolutely no expectation of privacy in a publicly accessible building. So take that and put it where the sun doesn't shine, young man. It's that freaking simple. She had the right to seek, receive and impart information and opinions of any kind in any form. That's the Bill of Rights, Section 14, which you are accusing her of doing. Paula had absolutely no idea I had recorded that 40 odd minutes in there before Super Sleuth security officer decided to ask me why my phone was in my pocket.
That's as far as this is concerned. And
Yep.
you're right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Done.
What about it?
No.
Why?
What's your phone? Why do you want it?
Why would I hold what like what?
So
You're not entitled to. Tell you what I'll do. Come on.
yeah, I'm coming. I'll be 2 seconds. Hang on, I just don't want you to catch the end of this. The 3rd of November is... Oh, got it, okay.
That's why I broke down bail.
Very good. Excellent. You have been amazingly helpful.
Thank you.
Very much.
Because you're not you need to learn. Can you?
Let's deal with
Tell you what I will do.
That's arrestment, straight up.
I'm not arresting anyone. I know the law too.
Now I'll record you. Is that what your problem is? Do you think I was recording?
I'm
Because
just
what
asking you a question.
But you wanted his phone.
you have the right to search my property.
Why do you hold your phone in your pocket? Why you got your hands? Are you touching your penis? Why would you do your hands like that?
Do you see how beautifully
But,
right
you know.
Exactly. Make a mountain out of a molehill. Go and learn.
Now that's some really good training on the Ministry of Justice's part. He sat there and watched me for 40 minutes. Paula behaved absolutely fine the whole time. So did Auntie, or Nana, the other lady that she supposedly banned to interact with, who just happened to walk in at the same time. I wonder if that was planned or not, Brian. Do you have evidence of that? Because I know you certainly have no evidence of Paula recording anything. She wasn't involved. She has no saying in what I put on my channel. She had no say in the editing process of that video. It was all me. And you have quite frankly made her guilty by association. And it's not the first time the Ministry of Justice has pulled this crap by refusing to allow her to seek and receive information and opinions of any kind in any form, by trespassing her without any valid reason. If you're stating it's because of her behaviour, well then what are the findings on material facts in relation to the trespass? Section 23 of the OIA is very clear, and yes, we will be filing something with the Ombudsman. And if that doesn't work, the International Association of Ombudsmen that goes on over in Australia, which has its little office right in Buckingham Palace. So I would suggest that you guys pull your fingers out of where the sun doesn't shine and start growing up. Stop acting like scared little children that are afraid of being recorded while you're under a camera all day by someone, and it's quite simple. You guys don't get to control the footage. You don't get to control the narrative of what goes on that video. And you don't like it when you're exposed for acting like complete tosspots like Mr. Hey, what's your phone doing in your pocket? Go ahead, trespass me. I wouldn't be found dead back in that Hawera Courthouse, and the only reason I need to, Section 5 of the Trespass Act would allow me to do it. If I'm in fear for someone's safety or property, I have the right to breach a trespass in cases of emergency, which is the only reason I'd be in a courtroom in the first place. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love courthouses. I go in them all the time. I thoroughly enjoy watching what goes on. I'm not scared of your little courthouses one bit, and neither is Paula. And knowledge is very freeing. So how frickin' dare you start criticising how people behave? How about how your staff have behaved? How the registry won't even return their calls. How about all of that? Or are you going to lodge some more false allegations against her? Anything else? There is. You were also observed verbally harassing a court security officer. 15th of October. Geez, that could have been when we were there. Okay? So you're saying that we were observed verbally harassing a court security officer. He asked me if I had my phone in my pocket. She asked him, why are your hands in your pocket? Are you playing with your penis? That's a perfectly reasonable question to someone who's playing ice hockey inside their pockets, isn't it? You know, what business is it of his what I'm doing on my phone? He can request, and he may have the right to ask, but I have the right to decline at any time. And that is not sole grounds to be trespassed from any site. But like I said, by all means, fucking trespass me, Brian, Mark. Try me. I'd love to file a private civil prosecution against you guys for breaching my rights. It's real simple. And don't think Paula's not going to go down that avenue either. I'll carry on. 3 November, you visited the court counter twice. The CRO, the court registry officer, who served you, asked you to leave during your second visit after you became aggressive towards them when they explained they could not assist you with your questions regarding the New Zealand Police and legal aid. Well, why is she being refused legal aid? She's got perfectly good grounds to get it. But again, you guys aren't giving her the information. You're not providing your fucking duties and your public services to someone that's in there seeking information. Why not? What are you scared of? Being pulled up for not following your own rules, procedures, regulations? What is it? These 2 events represented the culmination of a pattern of increasingly difficult encounters with you. What, so everybody's supposed to be easy to deal with, are they? Are hard questions difficult for your untrained registry officers? I know that none of them get any training. It's on-site training as they go. None of them are legally trained, and yet they're supposed to advise other people. If they were legally trained, they'd be lawyers. They'd be out there making hundreds of thousands of dollars every year, sucking off the tit of the legal aid service. In the absence of any reason to believe these behaviours would not continue, it was considered that there were reasonable grounds for issuing you the trespass notice. I note, however, to protect your right to access to justice, so you're actually admitting or acknowledging that she has a right to access justice. Care was taken to ensure you were still able to access the Hawera District Court for the purposes of attending court hearings as specified in the trespass notice. Nothing was specified in the trespass notice. There was no reason given why she was trespassed. And of course she can attend there during a court proceeding. What else is she supposed to do? Are you going to close the doors and not let someone be heard in a court of law or a court of legislation? Which is it? You know, it's really disgusting that yet again, and I'd like to add that Mark Popplewell's little attempts to put privacy complaints on some of my videos, pity that didn't work, isn't it? Because they know I haven't breached the law, and you guys are in the Ministry of Justice should damn well know it too. I've got emails from the Senior Solicitor of the Ministry of Justice telling me it is not an offence in itself to record in a publicly accessible area inside the Ministry of Justice, and that you scaredy cats who are afraid of being held accountable may revert to civil trespass to try and have me removed. Not that that's ever happened. I've never been trespassed from a courthouse. I've been trespassed from a medical centre, an emergency medical centre. That lasted 5 days until I made them rescind it and realised the error in what they had done. I'm absolutely disgusted by this. If you are not satisfied with the response you have the right to complain to the Ombudsman under Section 28(3) of the OIA. She is well aware of this. You can contact the office on the Ombudsman by writing to a PO box number, because there's no actual address. Why not the Chief Ombudsman's office? It's right next door to Orangatamariki on the other corner in Wellington on the terrace. Don't be helpful. Or calling 0800 802 602 or emailing info@ombudsman.parliament.nz. Have you got any statements from any staff about this alleged misbehaving or difficult customer? Because it looks like if there's anyone that's difficult, you guys just cower down to trying to trespass somebody and breach their rights in the process. You may be careful to say, oh, you can still come into a court hearing. But what if she needs information from the registry? She emails and gets no response. She calls them and they don't return the calls or hang up on her. So what else is she supposed to do other than attend to try and seek information, which you guys consider difficult? Is it hard? I was there that day to make sure Paula didn't go over the top, which she didn't do. I was there to help her and to try and explain the process through to her, which she had a grasp of generally anyway. But I was there to help, and I actually believe that I did help the registry correspond with her and have an interaction that wasn't so frustrating or against your behaviour policy. If you have a behaviour policy, please by all means supply it. You're a bunch of fucking cowards. And I dare you to trespass me, because if you want to start trespassing people that just happen to be with me, that have nothing to do with recording your shitty service, that have nothing to do with actual, giving anybody any public fucking service or support, well then why don't you go, they were being recorded too. They were there. What about your court registry staff or your court security officers? They were all there. They were involved in the recording too. They also featured on it. Are you going to trespass them all? Because they had just as much involvement in that recording as Paula did. So why don't you treat everyone fairly and stop picking on minorities or people that will actually challenge the system and get success? Is it because you don't like having your ass handed to you? Which is it? I'm quite steamed, but this ain't the end of it. You can bet your bloody bottom dollar on this. And if I ever happen to be in Hawera again, I will be certain to pop in just to ask for some information or some leaflets that you freely hand out there. Or is that not a court proceedings, and is that not counted as being allowed to go in there to seek information? I noticed you weren't careful enough to put that on your trespass notice, were you? Yes, you can go in to seek information and opinions. Go and look up the legal definition of opinion. It states about court cases, opinions made and decided by judges, information. You don't even understand the own language that you guys are trying to peddle out to the innocent fucking people that have no idea of how you screw them over. I've just spent 3 weeks in Timaru trying to help out my parents. My father almost died in hospital because of, again, agencies not doing their job properly. Agencies that knew that my mother was going through some mental difficulties and didn't tell anybody. A motor vehicle accident then happens. They then lose their truck. Dad almost dies from bloody blood poisoning, among many other issues, because he wasn't getting the support that he desperately needed, because doctors weren't doing their job properly. Now, for the last 2 months, my parents have been forced by the New Zealand police to stay away from each other under no direct or indirect contact because of an assault charge. I've got police calling me up to tell me that my father's broken my mother's arm. What a pack of lies, Miriam McCabe. It's absolutely disgusting. My sister is getting worked to the bone because she has many other issues as well. I went down there and worked my guts off to get Dad and as the farm back up to sort of working standards, to reasonable standards that he was happy. Now that my father is actually being looked after on a regular basis, he's a lot healthier. He can get around and move. You know? We even painted his house for him. Or for them, should I say, because it's my mother and father's house. But the police want support services in place before they variation the bail and allow two people over 70 years old who have been married for 53 fucking years to actually interact again. How are you supposed to run a farm that's 16 acres without having any communication going on? Huh? Whether it's direct or indirect. You know, granted in normal circumstances, I can understand why bail conditions like that existed. But they must treat every individual matter as each individual matter and must be judged on its grounds and the basis and everything else that's to do with that each individual matter. They shouldn't be treating them like one shoe fits all. The Timaru Family Harm Unit is exactly that. It has done nothing but cause my parents a large amount of emotional, physical distress, harm and alarm. And I don't even want to go there. I find it extremely upsetting. I will be telling the story. I have all of the calls to all of the different agencies, Timaru District Court wanting to know if I'm going to be showing up there on the 12th for a hearing. You know? I've got all of these officials posing to help me. So we'll see if they're going to help. Why didn't the needs assessment people that saw my parents back in October last year realise the smell of the place, the mould, the fact that my mother wasn't coping, the fact that my father needed medical attention? Why didn't the police get an ambulance when Dad asked multiple times during the night of the incident where he's allegedly assaulted my mother? Why didn't the police investigate further, Dad claiming that my mother had struck him? Why didn't they do their fucking job properly? Why did they ring up both myself and my sister and lie? Like I say, it's a very long story, and I've just dealt with it for 3 weeks personally, and I'm absolutely disgusted with it. And when I think back as to what could have actually happened, they knew, and nobody in the family was informed to keep a closer eye, to be on the lookout for things. That explained a hell of a lot that was going on. But again, that's a long story. I'm going to try and keep those details to a minimum at the moment. But rest assured, the police are going to be held accountable for their actions. The Health and Disability Commissioner is going to be informed about certain doctors that just like shoving out pills and not actually helping people, that refuse to help someone that is suffering blood poisoning that they didn't even detect, that was days away from dying because of neglect that some agency should have picked up on. Moving onward. Sorry I rambled on there a bit, but I had to get that off my chest. I'm sorry you guys, you may like it, you may not. Most people know that I would bend over backwards for any of my friends or anyone that needs help. If people haven't grasped that by now about me, so be it. But, you know, when Paula is trespassed from a building because she's allegedly not behaving right, I mean, how fucking ridiculous. What about your staff that don't behave right? You know, stop using civil law to cover up a bit of transparency that you don't like being held accountable to. Why don't you stop judges from selling their family land that shouldn't have been given to them in the first place and stealing property? You know, there's lots of dirty shit going on. I bet you Hawera police and the rest of them down there didn't like having 12 or 14 police officers trespassed from her house. Although she does appreciate that now you're only going to respond to her in writing from now on. She's got a toilet sitting at the gate, especially for police communications. Feel free to drop any by. But you will be filmed every time. You know, in a sick way. It's actually helping Paula get used to police. It's helping her phobia. Anyway, enough of me for this time round, guys. I've babbled on for 23 minutes. That's the end of it. I'm going to put these pages up, obviously, that I've read, so you guys can see while I'm reading what I'm doing. And stay golden. I actually watched an old 1980s movie called The Outsiders the other day. It was something I was given in school to watch. And, you know, it's got Rob Lowe, Patrick Swayze, Emilio Estevez, you know, the Karate Kid. It's got even Tom Cruise with banged up teeth in there. And he's still trying to do fucking cartwheel flips off the back of cars. Not much has changed from those in his Oprah days. You know? Yeah, it's got quite a few famous actors way back in their heyday. Probably when they're still getting fiddled around with by the pedophiles that are in the movie industry. Anyway, I digress. Catch us all later. Bye now.